Hey, so today we wanted to talk to you about a topic that sometimes feels uncomfortable for parents.
Sex. Sorry.
That's what we want to talk about.
Yep.
So I guess first off, we wondered, we've talked about this a little bit, what age were you when your parents had the talk with you? And was it just one talk, or did you guys have multiple discussions about sex? And yeah, what was your experience?
Mm-hmm.
I think the world we live in now is super different, so the way we parent is also needing to be really different. And it's interesting for us, we're doing it like everything bilingually with our kids, which has been an interesting experience. And I think actually that's more and more common around the world too, where people are teaching more than one language.
Yeah.
So what would you say, what has our experience been?
Well, you asked that question. To be honest, I don't ever remember ever talking about sex with my mom.
Oh, interesting.
And I mean, I didn't have a dad, but I didn't talk about sex. Unfortunately, I learned about sex from other sixth graders, and that was in the 90s, and I think it was sixth grade, 10, 11 years old. 11 years old.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I wasn't having sex, but I was learning about it. Just being honest. But I think nowadays it's way even younger than sixth grade. So I think with our experience, or because of that experience, and what we're doing with our kids is we're talking with them a lot earlier about not necessarily the details of what sex is, but we've started with terms, meaning that the actual, anatomy terms for what their private parts are. And we've done that for specific reasons. So as opposed to saying your pee-pee, or your bottom, or your bum-bum, or your ninis, or whatever all the little terms are that we think are infantilizing for kids, we try our best to use the real terms. So we say your breasts, we say your penis, we say your vagina to our daughter, and we've taught them those terms in both English and Spanish, so that they know what their body parts are. And what Mika has taught me, because she studied human development and is much more of an authority than I am on this, is that this empowers these children to know about themselves, and so that when they encounter situations, whether they're at school or outside of school, or if, God forbid, they were ever to be in a situation with a predator, that they know the actual terms for their body parts. And a lot of times these predators, or even older kids, they get scared when they hear that a kid as young as 3 or 4 years old knows what a penis is, instead of calling it a pee-pee as a little child would. And so what this can do is this can work as a mechanism for protecting our children. We're protecting them from that kind of predatory behavior, amongst other things. So that's kind of been our experience thus far. Our kids are still young, but
they have so much interest in their bodies. So this conversation happens very organically and naturally. I mean, I can't tell you how many things we've looked up. Like, they'll ask me, like, what does an inside of a dog look like? And we'll look at the skeleton of a dog and and then the cat, how his spine is more curved. Like, we've looked at all these things, and similarly, they have questions about their bodies.
Well, if I can interrupt, I think these are very innocent questions. They're just curious about the world, the inside. They asked the other day, I was talking to them about their Achilles tendon. I said, what does that look like? So I showed them mine, and they said, can we look it up and see what the inside looks like? So we looked up some sort of like surgery picture or something of what an Achilles tendon looks like. And so I just want to kind of underscore that talking about sex to your children in an educated way and teaching them the right terms is in no way taking away their innocence. They are innocent, and therefore the questions are so pure. Their thoughts are so pure. To them, it's not about sex and what we think about as adults, which is why, for some weird reason, it's such a taboo topic, at least in America, and perhaps in other parts of the world. And we say, oh, if you had the talk yet. What do you even mean by the talk? Like, we're so afraid of approaching it because we're thinking of it in our adult minds. We're not little children, and so what really we should be saying is, how often have you talked to your kids about these terms, about what could happen, and about what it is? You know what I mean?
Anything that we feel like is important, we never teach it to our children one time.
That's
like
true.
It is maybe a daily basis, some of these things, until they really learn it. And so a topic like their bodies doesn't have to be that frequently, because it's not life or death.
Breakfast is over. Time for sex. Talk.
But it should be regularly done, and it shouldn't be. If you get all weird and uncomfortable, they take those cues. Like, this is a weird, uncomfortable topic. If you speak to them like you do about other things you're teaching about math and letters, their body and how it functions should be taught exactly the same. So I would say just kind of giving ages. Around 2, when we're teaching them words, we're teaching them their body, including their private parts. That's not something that's weird and we don't want to teach it. It's eyes,
it's not inappropriate
nose, mouth.
for little children either. It's totally appropriate for them to know these parts of their body.
Exactly. So they're learning that at like 2 and 3. And then when they're maybe 3, 4, 5, depending on questions they have, there's a very good chance they're going to ask questions related further into deeper parts of sex, maybe.
Or like where babies come from.
Exactly.
It's been a question in our family.
Where do babies come from? We've also had questions about...
So I just got a curiosity, since we touched that, what's been our experience? Maybe we can
how do we teach that?
How do we teach where babies come from, at least in our family?
So with the age that they're at and the questions they've had, we've taught them that it takes a mommy and a daddy who are married to make a baby, and that the mother has eggs in her body. And my kids have thought that's really interesting. When we've been cooking, we've had 2 kind of funny egg stories. I was cooking with Stancy and we were cracking eggs, and she was like, "Are those the eggs that we have in our bodies?" And I was like, "No, these are a little different. These are from chickens. They're much bigger." So we've kind of tried to talk about just how tiny those eggs are in our body. And then another funny story, it's actually my niece, my sisters and I, we've tried to follow similar patterns with teaching. So she was talking to her daughter knows that she has eggs in her body that will one day help her to make babies when she's a mommy. And she fell in the bathtub, and as she like wiped out and she's crying, and she was like, "Mom, did I break my eggs?" And so I think they really are internalizing and understanding what they are. So we've taught our kids that she knows she has a uterus, that she has ovaries, that she, you know, we've looked at the anatomy pictures of, what is that called? Anatomical pictures? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think anatomy. I don't know actually.
Anatomical. Yeah. I think that's the right word. Anatomical pictures
of
their ovaries and their fallopian tubes and their uterus and their vagina and everything. And then with Lincoln, Constance knows this too, then they know that the daddies have sperm and they need the egg and the sperm to make the baby. And then the baby can grow in the mommy's tummy. And so far they haven't asked, how does the sperm get to the egg?
It's interesting because I think if we had been weird about it, and in our minds expecting, oh man, now I got to explain how sex works to a little bitty child, then I think we would have weirded them out. But they've been, little kids have, at least ours, have been satisfied with the answers we've given them, which are true answers. They're just not the complete picture, which they'll get when they're just a little bit older on the very specifics of how the sperm gets to the eggs. But they do know that that's how babies are made.
Yeah, and they think it's fascinating that these little sperm have little tails and swim, and there's so many they really just have so much interest. So far, just a minute, sweet boy. So far, that's been our conversations with them. We've had, we follow their questions, we answer them honestly. Sometimes, if you don't have an answer right away, you can say, "That's a great question. Let me think about it, or let me research it," because I do that for lots of things. So maybe you do know the answer, but you're not feeling comfortable of how to explain it for that age.
Yeah.
Give yourself some time, and then
Or you can do like I do and be like, "That is a really good question. Go ask your mom. She has the answer."
Oh my goodness. And just continue to have these conversations regularly. And the conversation that I think is important that you bring up is the repetition of what parts of your body are special
and should not
private.
Be exactly.
And who should touch them and who shouldn't. So
now that we have the kids here, we're gonna kind of share with you what we've done, what we've taught them. So they know that they have private parts of their bodies that are sacred, that nobody else should see or touch unless in very, very specific situations, which is their mom and dad, and they can share that with us. But what are your private parts that nobody should see or touch, Constance, in English?
My vagina.
Okay.
My bum.
Okay.
And my breast.
And your breast. Okay. And Lincoln, what about you? What's your private part that nobody should see or touch, buddy?
Say it nice and clear.
My pipitokoro.
And what is that in English? What do we say?
My penis.
Your what?
penis.
Okay, your penis. Okay,
Very
good.
good.
And
And-
why shouldn't people be touching or seeing these parts?
Because they're really important for us.
Okay, but who can see them or touch them or help you?
Family. Our family.
Like who? Who's your family?
My mommy and my daddy, our brothers and our sisters.
I think,
And our babies.
I guess they do see because you guys take baths together. But mommy and why can mommy and daddy see your privates?
Because
Your
they
vagina
help
or your
us
penis?
if it hurts. And they help. It has injured.
Okay, if you have an injury, if it's hurt.
Or if we need. If we have to wash it. Or if we have an emergency to go to the bathroom.
Emergency.
Yeah, if we have
to
an emergency, go to the
bathroom.
bathroom. Mommy and daddy have to help us, so they're gonna see those parts.
Good job, Subs.
Right.
You said to wash, yeah?
Oh, and to wash, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Emergency, Mega down there on the ground, I needed to go pee really in the car, and so we just did outside on the ground. And then you just came, and then you just
Who helped you go pee on the ground?
Mommy.
Mommy did. Okay.
It was,
Good job, Mommy.
Yes, it was an emergency. We did have to pee on the ground. No.
That's true. Okay.
So I would say, in general, that's what we've done so far. I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, maybe additional tips you might have for us.
Yeah, what are you guys doing?
I think it's a thing that we all are having to figure out as parents, and I really think it's different from how our parents taught us, and maybe I think it's circumstantial with how the world is, as well as we're becoming a little more educated on the importance of talking to our kids young. Yeah, and so please let us know if you have more questions regarding this kind of topic. I'd love to hear what you're interested in hearing about. Like, subscribe, please share. I really think this kind of information,
Yep.
I would love I would love to hear more people's perspective. I'd love for you to share it.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a little bell on the bottom. If you click that little bell.
Click the bell.
Click, 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 click.
Thumbs
It
up.
means it means you'll get a notification for when
Every
we
time
upload another video. Yeah.
Exactly.
So on that note, have a good day. Okay. Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You guys want to play some more?
Yay! I see a black bug.
Cool. Do you want to eat the black bug?